In DeKalb County, something powerful is happening. A movement built on compassion, driven by partnerships, and fueled by a simple belief: every animal deserves to be valued, protected, and loved. As part of this effort, DeKalb County District 2 Commissioner Michelle Long Spears proudly hosts the 3rd annual State of DeKalb Animals, fondly known as SoDA. Launched in 2024, this initiative brings together community leaders, animal advocates, and partner organizations with one clear mission: to improve the lives of animals and the people who care for them.
I love animals. I'm a lifelong animal owner, and I was so concerned by the number of animals in our shelter, double the capacity of our animal shelter. I felt that it was my responsibility and an opportunity to spread the word, increase awareness, and let folks know that there is an opportunity to save the life of a furry friend.
Access to veterinary care is expanding. Through programs like Healthy Pets DeKalb, families across the county are receiving essential services that help keep pets healthy and keep them at home where they belong. Through partnerships with LifeLine Animal Project, Paws Atlanta, the Georgia Pet Coalition, and the United Spay Alliance, DeKalb hosted its first high-quality, high-volume spay and neuter training. 12 veterinarians learned advanced surgical techniques, leading to 2 spay-a-thons that altered 239 pets at no cost to DeKalb residents. And the momentum continues. DeKalb County is investing more than $1 million each year in spay and neuter services, one of the largest local commitments in the nation, with plans to expand access and provide up to 6,000 surgeries in the coming year. For community cats, new support is making a difference. District 2 funded 436 vouchers to cover spay and neuter services for trappers, and successfully advocated to permanently eliminate the $60 fee for these life-saving procedures. Shelter partnerships are also strengthening the safety net for animals. Through the SoDA initiative, more than $4,000 helped Paws Atlanta provide free spay services for mothers of surrendered litters, helping prevent future overpopulation. And with the groundbreaking of a new shelter expansion, DeKalb is building a more humane future for animals in need. Through events like Bark and Chill, Santa Paws, and community outreach programs, residents are connecting with animals in meaningful ways. Families are finding new companions. Neighbors are learning how to care for pets responsibly. And communities are working together to celebrate the bond between people and animals.
My wife died, and that was a bad time. I don't think I would be the person I am now if I didn't have dogs. I would be laying in a bed someplace all the time, never doing anything. They make me get up and go out. My dogs have saved my life with so many reasons. I mean, there's so much that they've done. I could never pay them back for what they've done for me. They're wonderful.
Across the county and even at the state capitol, advocates are raising their voices for animals.
Every day, I see the difference our community makes for DeKalb's animals. From volunteers to local organizations, these efforts show the heart of our county. This initiative reminds us that when we care for our animals, we strengthen our community as a whole.
From shelter to home, from neighbor to neighbor, the state of DeKalb Animals continues to turn compassion into action. Aviva Hoffman, DCTV.
Good morning, everyone. That's better.
My name is Michelle Long-Spears. I am the District 2 Commissioner in DeKalb County and proud to be referred to as the Animal Commissioner. Thank you all for attending our 3rd annual State of DeKalb Animals Address. I'm truly grateful to stand with so many wonderful red shirts, partners, advocates, volunteers, staff, electeds, and so on, and for people who deeply, deeply care about our furry friends and animal well-being in DeKalb County and beyond. When we launched the Save Our DeKalb Animals initiative, we made a commitment to treat animal well-being not as a side issue, but as a core quality of life issue and reflection of what our community values. When we launched the Save Our DeKalb Animals initiative, we had a complete blank slate. What are we going to do with this? How is this going to evolve? And I'm so proud to say that it really did take a village, and it started out as an address, similar to what we're doing today, and then evolved into a full, broad initiative all around animal well-being. Why, you might ask? Because when animals are safe, healthy, and feel protected and cared for, our communities are stronger, safer, and more compassionate. Today, I'm proud to say we're making real progress. Before I deliver the animal well-being address, a few housekeeping items. The agenda is on your table. The QR code at the bottom, you can scan it and access my end of term report up until date. And then also, our luncheon concludes at 1 p.m. today, and following our 3 roundtables, I encourage everyone to attend. Now, let's recognize the folks who make this happen. First, members and representatives of our governing authority, the CEO and the commissioners, please stand. Next, if the Brookhaven mayor, council members, staff, event personnel, law enforcement, and certainly your canine handlers, please stand. And a big thank you to Brookhaven for hosting us today and for also allowing us to have a booth at last weekend's Cherry Blossom Festival, which drew over 60,000 people to Blackburn Park. Great job, Mayor. Next, all of the city mayors, council members, and anyone representing a city, please stand. Any members of our delegation, please stand. Anybody here? Sine Die is tomorrow, so they're working very hard under the gold dome. So let's send them good vibes all the way from Brookhaven. Now, will our judges and judicial leaders please stand? Members of our Animal Services Advisory Board, please stand. Now will the staff and volunteers of LifeLine Animal Project please stand? Woo! Right on. Some of you can stay standing. Will our advocates in red shirts please rise? Thank you all for everything y'all do. You show up at meetings, you're constantly hitting us with emails and reminding us how important this issue is to the DeKalb community. Next, we'll have members of the steering committee, the SoDA steering committee, and volunteers at today's event. Please stand. Next, DeKalb County government employees, Board of Commissioner employees, public safety, law and animal enforcement personnel, and canine handlers in the room, please stand. Thank you, DeKalb family, for continuing to show up, shout out, and support the good work of the governing authority. And also a big shout out to Police and Fire, our amazing public safety director, who we'll hear from later today, DCTV and IT, as well as Human Services for loaning us 2 vehicles today. Next, will the dear, dear, dear District 2 team please stand for applause? Joy, Beth, Destiny, Karen, Caroline, Andy, and Greg, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I could not do this work without you, and you have no idea the number of hours behind the scenes that these folks invested to make today possible. So let's give them another round of applause. I'd also like to recognize any former electeds that are in the room today, and a particular shout out to my friend and mentor, Jeff Rader, and I don't see him anywhere. There he is. Hey, Jeff. Thank you for always being here and supporting me. Lastly, I'd like to recognize our event planner, Ashley Puff, who is somewhere, maybe behind me. Oh, there she is. Ashley's right back here in the long, beautiful red hair. Let's give her a big round of applause. We appreciate you, Ashley. This is absolutely beautiful. You have made like a 15 out of 10 in my book, so thank you. And folks, I want to also thank all of you, everybody here who took time out of your busy schedules to be present, who show up at the shelter, who work for rescues, who volunteer, the staff that are cleaning out the kennels, those that are walking the dogs, and every single person in this room. Please raise your hands, wave out loud and proud, and say thank you so much. Thank you to you. Raise your hands, y'all. Up high. All of y'all. Up, 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 up. I'm not moving on until I see it. Come on, everybody. Hands in the air. Hands in the air. Thank you for indulging me. All righty. If I missed someone that I should have thanked, I do apologize. We did our best with this list. All right. Now we are moving on to the annual update. Let's start with the numbers because they tell an important story. In 2025, our shelter saw a total intake of 9,666 animals, a 7.4% increase. That tells us something important. The need is still growing. But alongside that challenge, we're seeing meaningful improvements in outcomes. Adoptions increased by 23.4%, with 5,786 animals finding loving, forever homes. That means household pets are now part of loving families out of our shelter and off our streets. Returns to homes also increased by over 10%, reuniting 1,167 pets with their owners. That's not just a statistic. That's relief, that's joy, that's families made whole again. Again, these animals out of our overcrowded shelter and off of our streets. And one of the most encouraging trends we're seeing is in our foster program. Foster visits for dogs increased by nearly 20%, and for cats over 11.8%. Combined, that's a 46.9% increase in animals getting out of the shelter and into temporary or permanent homes eventually. That matters because every foster placement reduces crowding, improves outcomes, and gives animals a better chance at adoption and gives families the opportunity to learn and grow with a furry friend. But let's be honest, we're still facing serious challenges. Shelter overcrowding is still an issue, remains a reality. Court-held animals continue to occupy critical space. With last time I checked, we had 76 animals currently being held. These are complex issues that require long-term systemic solutions. And that brings me to one of the most important things we've done this year, investing in prevention, putting our money where our mouth is. In February of this year, the DeKalb Board of Commissioners passed a $13.8 million budget for animal services. To put that in perspective, in 2023, the budget was $7.8 million. That is a $6 million increase in 3 years. So let's give it up for DeKalb. Advocates, red shirts, we've heard you. Spay and neuter gets to the root of the problem. Of that budget, we approved more than $1.18 million annually to expand free spay-neuter services, mobile veterinary clinics, and community outreach. This is a game changer, big time. We are increasing free spay-neuter surgeries from 1,000 last year to 4,800 this year. That is worth a clap. And it gets better. Ultimately, by 2027, 6,000 spay-neuter surgeries annually. And we're not stopping there. LifeLine is expanding clinic hours to include weekends, increasing mobile veterinary services, providing access to veterinary care for sick and injured animals, and building a stronger community outreach network that connects residents with resources and services. So, you might ask again, why does this matter? Because the most humane and cost-effective way to address shelter overcrowding is to prevent it in the first place. When families have access to affordable veterinary care, when pet owners can spay and neuter their animals, when our furry friends are healthy and have access to quality food and meds, what that means, fewer animals enter the shelter system to begin with. And that's exactly the kind of upstream investment that creates lasting change. And we have done that right here in your DeKalb County. Furthermore, I submit to each and every one of you out there, DeKalb County is doing more for animal services here in Georgia than anywhere in the entire United States of America. Thank you, governing authority. And to achieve that, we all know it really does take a village, with every one of you in this room playing a critical role. Now let's take a moment to highlight the work happening right here in District 2, because hyper-local investments do matter. Our office supported community events like senior adult puppy cuddles and kitty cuddle adoption days, bringing people and pets together in joyful, meaningful ways. When we invested in veterinary training, we helped 16 veterinarians receive high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter certification for cats and dogs. We funded targeted spay-a-thons, including one last May that served 195 animals, and another in the fall that served 144 animals. We provided 436 community cat vouchers, eliminating barriers for those doing the critical works of managing and caring for community cat populations around DeKalb. In Q4 of last year, we expanded the shelter to include Georgia's first pet neighborhood right down the way in Chamblee. It houses 120 dogs in a humane indoor-outdoor environment. And we've partnered with organizations like Paws Atlanta to ensure that even our most vulnerable pet owners have access to care. The county is funding the purchase of a mobile spay and neuter vehicle, which Paws will operate to bring free and low-cost services to every pocket of our community. This is what innovative, accountable, compassionate, community-centered animal well-being looks like today. It's not just about shelters, it's about neighborhoods, it's about access, it's about meeting people where they are. And alongside these investments, we've advanced important legislation to strengthen protections for animals across DeKalb County. Later in today's agenda, we will hear from Dr. McCarthey over some of the successes under the Gold Dome in the last year. Here in District 2, we supported and advocated, or actually across the county, but led by District 2, we supported and advocated for the continued implementation of the Animal Services Advisory Board 5-point plan. We passed the litter registry ordinance. We advanced protections to the transient sales ordinance, and we continue working on additional measures such as the tethering update ordinance and retail sales reforms. These policies are about accountability, responsibility, and creating the system, a system here in DeKalb that works better for all two-legged and four-legged residents. Because at the end of the day, animal well-being is not just an animal issue. It's a public health issue. It's a public safety issue. It's a neighborhood issue. Our keynote speaker last year, Cole Thaler, who did a great job, emphasized that protecting animals is not just about compassion. It's essential to safeguarding public safety and public health for our entire community. This work is also deeply personal. Every one of us has a story. All of us, or a lot of us, we've had a pet that we've loved. We've had a pet that we've lost. And those moments remind us of how incredibly valuable and powerful those companion animal human moments are to all of us, and why it matters. And this work does matter. That's why you, so many of you in this audience, show up day in, day out, getting dirty, sleeves rolled up, Saturdays, Sundays, weekends, holidays. And that's why you keep pushing forward, even when the challenges are real and feel insurmountable. Because we know now what's possible. We see it in the growing number of adoptions. We see it in the expansion of foster care. We see it in the families who now have access to veterinary services who previously couldn't afford it. And we see it in the many, many partnerships that are represented here today. And most importantly, we see it in the lives changed, again, of our two-legged and four-legged residents. Now, I want to be clear. We are not done. We're not there. We're still working at it, and we have much work to do to reduce intake, to address overcrowding, and to ensure that every animal has a safe and healthy future. But we are now moving in the right direction, and we're doing it together, again, with all of you. Today, I want to thank our many partners that we have worked with in the past 3 years and 3 months since I've been in office. LifeLine Animal Project, Paws Atlanta, Georgia Pet Coalition, United Spay Alliance, Humane World of Animals, Spay Neuter Vets, Remedy Vet, Atlanta Humane Society, Compassionate Atlanta, Ahimsa House, Kirk Cats, Georgia Veterinary Medical Association, Jenny Milner Foundation, the Animal Protection Society Animal Law Source, Georgia Spot Society, UGA School of Law, Dogs We Trust, Frogs to Dogs, Spot for Dogs, Georgia Center for Humane Education, Planned Parenthood, and Bella's Blessings. And then, of course, our many veterinarians, our advocates, volunteers, and residents. So thank you to all of these partners. Let's give them a round of applause. The progress I elevated today begins with all of us. And it's all of us working together, hand in hand, on this journey. As we look ahead, I invite each of you to stay engaged, to foster, to adopt, to partner, to show up at the shelter, to donate items, to volunteer, to advocate. There's just so many ways that you can stay part of this very broad, fastly moving, steam ahead movement that we're in right now. Because shaping the future of animal well-being is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's a shared, ongoing commitment to improvement and knowing that together we can do it better. And that is something worth celebrating. Thank you again all so much. It is truly my honor to be here today to bring you the 3rd annual Save Our DeKalb Animals address, luncheon, and new this year are our roundtables afterwards. Okay, so anyone who was here last year, we had also Dr. Commissioner Bolton do the Madam CEO's comments. She will also do them again this year. Now, without further ado, let's give Dr. Bolton a hand.
We all know Commissioner Spears is a shorty, so I'm going to move the microphone up just a bit for me. And thank you all for allowing me to address you today on behalf of CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson. If you're unfamiliar with me, I am LaDena Bolton, affectionately known as Dr. B in the community. I'm our Super District 7 Commissioner, which is the seat Madam CEO previously held. She does send her regrets in not being able to attend today, but as you know, she is a worker. And what she's actually doing right now is she is advocating at the Capitol. She had a hard decision to make, whether to come and support this initiative she is extremely adamant about, or to be at the Capitol advocating to make sure that we can continue to retain control of our communities, what they look like, and how we will build them for our future. And if you're unfamiliar with what I'm referring to, it's House Bill 369. This bill removes local authority in the 5 metro counties. Now, mind you, there are 159 counties across the state of Georgia, but only Fulton, Cobb, Gwinnett, Clayton, and you guessed it, DeKalb County will be impacted by this. It takes away our authority to decide whether certain county level seat or races would be partisan or nonpartisan. So a lot of the elected leaders in this room right now might lose their capacity to continue serving you if this bill passes, because it hides whether someone identifies as partisan, Democrat or Republican. It hides their values. It hides what they supported in the past, and it hides what they would potentially support in the future. So she is advocating for us along with the other of the 5 metro counties at the Capitol right now. But moving into her comments, she says, "Good morning, everyone. It is, and for me, it's my pleasure to bring greetings to you on behalf of DeKalb CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson. She's grateful to be in support of this initiative today as we gather for the annual State of DeKalb Animal Address. This is an event that continues to highlight the progress we are making in animal well-being and in supporting the families who care for our companion animals. This gathering reflects something deeply important to our CEO, a community where compassion, accountability, and responsible stewardship guide how we treat every living being. Over the past year, DeKalb County has taken meaningful steps. Many of those were iterated by Commissioner Long Spears, but steps to strengthen animal services, expand access to resources, and improve outcomes for both pets and the people who love them. I'm proud to say through the ERPS Committee, Employee Relations and Public Safety, we helped to increase the budget for our animal friends by $4 million, from about $18 to $22 million. Today is an opportunity to celebrate that work, acknowledge the challenges ahead, and recommit to solutions that uplift our entire county. CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson thanks each of you, advocates, volunteers, partners, and residents, and I wore my red shirt today. Your voice and your service continue to shape a stronger, more humane DeKalb. Thank you all again for being here, and thank you for the work that you do every day to make our county better than it was yesterday.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Commissioner Bolton. We are always happy when you're with us. Next, we're pleased to hear, I have to move it down because she is right, I'm significantly shorter than her. Next, we're pleased to hear greetings from Mayor John Park of Brookhaven. Brookhaven is my home city, and I'm proud of that. Mayor Park was sworn in as Brookhaven's 4th mayor in January 2024, following nearly a decade of service as the District 2 councilman. Born in South Korea and raised in Decatur, he is a graduate of Emory University and began his career at IBM before dedicating his work to public health. Please join me in welcoming Mayor John Park. Thank you for being with us.
Hello. As mayor, first of all, as mayor of Brookhaven, I would like to welcome you to Brookhaven and to our city center, the People's House. We have a little slogan in Brookhaven called Better Together. It's so great to see all of us here together because in truth, we are all better together. Now I get to talk about puppies and kitties. I'm a fan of fostering and adopting. I used to, on a fairly regular basis, I've fostered hundreds of dogs where we take them for a while, get them acclimated, and then send them on buses up north to get adopted to other places. But one thing that I realized is, and we were talking within our organizations, various rescue organizations, is we're not going to adopt and foster our way out of this problem. We have to take a systemic and comprehensive approach on all facets of our operations, whether it's judicial or enforcement and resources, spay-neuter enforcement. And so it's so heartening that DeKalb has come together, and Michelle and Commissioner Spears has come together to take this comprehensive approach and really tackle this in a holistic way. And so I applaud you and thank you for your efforts. In Brookhaven, if you've ever been to a city council meeting, at the beginning of every meeting, we start off with a Pet of the Week, where we highlight an animal at the LifeLine Animal Services. They do some great work. And also, in case you don't know, Brookhaven sponsors. If you're a Brookhaven resident and you want to adopt a dog at LifeLine, the cost is sponsored by the city of Brookhaven. So Brookhaven residents can adopt for free. It's a little something that we can do. And we also synchronize our animal ordinances to make sure that our police and DeKalb Animal Services, DeKalb Animal Enforcement, can coordinate our efforts and harmonize how we take an approach to all that. So I just wanted to highlight those things and welcome you to the city of Brookhaven. Thank you for being here and have a nice day.
Thank you, Mayor Park. You continue to inspire me. Alrighty, moving on to our keynote speaker, Miss Jessica Rock. Isn't that a cool name? I call it a movie star name. Ms. Rock serves as Georgia's State Animal Crimes Resource Prosecutor and is a Special Assistant United States Attorney, where she prosecutes federal animal fighting cases. A former deputy chief of DeKalb County Special Victims Unit, she has led thousands of prosecutions involving violent crime and pioneered Georgia's first animal cruelty task force. Nationally recognized as a trainer, author, and leader in animal law, she has received multiple federal awards for her work on landmark animal fighting prosecutions. She joins us today to share insights on policy, the judicial system, and law enforcement, and broader landscape shaping animal well-being. Now please join me in welcoming the fabulous Jessica Rock. Got a movie star name.
I stole it from my ex-husband.
Oh, there you go.
Good morning, everyone. I told Michelle if I could just have like half of her energy. I've seen her speak twice, I think, in the past week or so, and I'm so impressed. And I just have to say, it is truly an honor to be here to give this year's State of the DeKalb Animals Address. This community is not just where important work happens, but this is where my journey began. To come back and speak to all of you, the commissioners, the amazing advocates that have been around for decades, investigators, prosecutors, judges, the leaders who dedicate yourselves to protecting animals every day. They are some of the most vulnerable living among us. But it is both deeply humbling and meaningful for me to be here today. Some of you in this room may remember that back in 2004, when it comes to animal welfare, DeKalb County made history. We did. We were the first county in the state and possibly in the country to dedicate a prosecutor to handle animal crimes on the state level. We were also the first county in the state to dedicate 2 post-certified law enforcement officers to handle nothing but animal crimes. The unit was comprised of 3 post-certified officers. 1 was a supervisor, 2 worked the criminal cases, and we also had 2 animal services officers in that unit. They worked in conjunction with myself, an investigator in the Solicitor General's office, an investigator in the DA's office, and a shelter staff veterinarian. And with that, the state's first animal cruelty task force was born. And I have to say, in many ways, it was a very trying time. We learned a lot by trial and error. This type of investigation and prosecution was not occurring on the state level around the country. Historically, we have tasked animal services by just stating anytime we have an animal issue, that's an animal services issue. Even when something so egregious as somebody who starved their dog to death in a backyard. But we changed that. We began navigating our state law when the offense fit the law. People started being arrested and held accountable for abusing and neglecting animals, some cases with jail time, and some even with prison time. We sent a message to the community that animal abuse was not going to be tolerated. And I am very proud to say that this journey began in DeKalb County, and that DeKalb County did pave the way for so many other counties to do the same. In 2016, we saw a major shift at the federal level in how animal crimes are recognized and addressed. The FBI began formally tracking animal cruelty cases, elevating those crimes to the same level of visibility as other serious offenses. This change was not just about data collection, but it was about acknowledgement. Animal cruelty was no longer viewed as an isolated issue, but a critical indicator of broader patterns of violence. At the same time, the FBI, the National Counterterrorism Center, and the Department of Homeland Security developed and disseminated a toolkit for law enforcement. It was a resource that was designed to help officers recognize animal cruelty, not only as a crime, but as a potential warning sign that we often refer to as the link between animal abuse, interpersonal violence, and even organized crime. Together, these efforts made a pivotal shift that animal cruelty was a part of a national conversation about public safety, intelligence, and even violence prevention. And this wasn't just a policy change, it was a mindset shift. And it changed how we investigate, how we collaborate, and ultimately how we protect both humans and animals. And now, DeKalb County, my favorite county in the whole state, collaboration and communication regarding animal welfare has been reinvigorated and is presenting a model for other counties once again. During the prior 2 State of the DeKalb County Animal Addresses, we heard about meaningful progress, and even today, same meaningful progress. Thoughtful leadership and a growing recognition that animal welfare is directly tied to the well-being of our entire community. In particular, I have to recognize Commissioner Michelle Long-Spears and her continued efforts improving the lives of both animals and humans and the people of DeKalb County. Through her leadership, we have seen increased efforts to strengthen humane treatment and responsible ownership. Her focus on community-centered solutions, understanding that animal welfare intersects with public safety, has helped move this conversation forward in a way that is both practical and compassionate. Commissioner Michelle Long-Spears, you are a champion. Thank you. At the same time, we have also seen meaningful efforts across our agencies to address one of our most persistent challenges, the number of animals on court holds. I have to acknowledge DA Sherry Boston and Solicitor General Donna Stribling for their hard work Both of these respective offices have put in a ton of effort to lessen the number of court holds, triaging an incredible backlog of cases. And I cannot go without thanking Judge Wong. We've known each other for decades. Judge Wong, he taught me how to be a prosecutor. He yelled at me a lot. My maiden name was Harris, and I still have echoes in my head of, Harris, come here. But I tried one of my very first animal cruelty cases with Judge Wong, And he put the lady in jail afterwards. Not going to tell you about the facts of the case. We can skip over that, but it was quite horrible. This conversation has been reignited, recognizing that animal welfare is not a standalone issue, but it is one that intersects public safety, community stability, and the overall quality of life in DeKalb County. But what we know is that these collective efforts are what's going to make a difference. They demonstrate what is possible when agencies work together with a shared focus and a sense of urgency. We have seen an increased emphasis on keeping pets together with their families whenever possible. Through community outreach efforts, access to pet food assistance, low-cost veterinary care, and spay and neuter programs, there is a recognition that prevention and support are key components of animal welfare. A lot of times, by the time they get to us on the prosecution level, we are oftentimes in a very different place. But there are so many things that we can do to prevent those individuals from getting there in the first place. These efforts remind us that progress is possible when leadership, policy, and on-the-ground work align. They reinforce the importance of continuing to build that momentum together. When I first started my career in DeKalb County, I quickly learned that this work asks something different of you. It asks you to see what others may overlook. It asks you to step into difficult situations without hesitation. It asks you to care consistently, deeply, and often without recognition. And in fact, you are often the subject of criticism no matter how much good you are doing. But one of the most important lessons I learned early on is no one is going to succeed in this work alone. I want to talk about teamwork, not as a buzzword, not as an ideal, but as a practical, necessary, and urgent strategy for improving outcomes for animals and for our community. Because the reality is this: when teamwork is strong, cases move more efficiently, outcomes improve, animals suffer less. And when teamwork breaks down even slightly, we see the consequences across our entire system. And the animals are the innocent ones that feel the brunt of the harm. But before we talk about working together, I want to ground us in why this work matters. Not just for those of us in this room, but every resident in DeKalb County. Animal welfare is often viewed, historically and even some today, as being very separate from public safety. It is sometimes seen as a secondary issue, one that exists on the margins of the justice system. But those of us who do this work, and for me now 22 years, we know the truth. Animal cruelty is not an isolated issue. It is a community issue, it is a public safety issue, it is a public health issue, and in many cases, it is an early warning sign that something much larger is going on. The well-documented and widely recognized connection between animal cruelty and human violence is not theoretical. It is something that has been observed across disciplines, law enforcement, social services, psychology, prosecution, and more. I have personally seen it in my own cases many, many times. Individuals who harm animals may also be engaging in other forms of violence. Homes where animals are neglected or abused, there also may be children at risk. Patterns of control, neglect, and aggression often do not exist in isolation. In many cases, animal cruelty is the first visible indicator that something is wrong. That means when Animal Services responds to a call, when law enforcement investigates an animal cruelty complaint, when a prosecutor reviews a case file, these moments matter beyond that individual animal. They are opportunities to identify risk and intervene to prevent escalation. So when we talk about animal welfare, we are not just talking about compassion, we are talking about prevention. We are talking about safety. We are talking about protecting both animals and people. That is why this work deserves the full, coordinated, collaborative response of this community, because no one agency sees the entire picture. Animal Services, law enforcement officers, Solicitor General's office, the DA's office, shelter staff, the county attorney's office, advocates, judges, other elected officials, LifeLine, PAWS. Each of these roles is essential. But the strength of our system is not designed by our individual roles. It is defined by how those roles intersect. And one of the clearest areas where that connection matters, and what I was asked to talk about today, is where we still face challenges, and that is the management of our court-hold animals. Specifically, dogs seized in cruelty cases that remain in our county shelter while those cases are pending. We need to acknowledge the impact that has on those dogs. We need to acknowledge that these dogs are remaining on the shelter for months, sometimes even longer, while living in a lot of uncertainty. Even the best shelters with dedicated staff and volunteers, that environment is not designed for long-term holding under those conditions. Dogs experience stress, anxiety, and behavioral decline, and then they may become harder to place. And in some cases, that delay the intended, purpose of seizing them in the first place, the situation just becomes even worse. Shelters are impacted, space is limited, resources are finite, staff and volunteers are carrying emotional and operational weight of the animals that cannot move forward. So the question becomes, how do we really address this? The answer is not to eliminate court holds entirely. That would not be realistic or responsible. But the answer is to be more strategic, more coordinated, and more proactive in how we use them. Because reducing the number of animals sitting in shelters on court holds is not the responsibility of one agency. It is a shared responsibility, and it begins at the earliest stage of a case. 2016 was not just a pivotal year at the federal level, it was also a turning point here in Georgia. That year, and thanks to HSUS, now Humane World for Animals, worked very hard to get the cost of animal care law passed down at the Capitol. And anybody who goes to the Gold Dome knows it's not easy for us to get animal laws passed down there. But it gave courts the required authority to make animal owners pay for the cost of care while a case is pending. But this law is so much more about outcomes than it is about cost recovery. Historically, animals were living in the shelter for months, even years, while cases slowly moved through the system. This meant prolonged stress on the animals, strain on shelter resources, and difficult decisions for agencies. The cost of care law was designed to change that, and it should change that. It creates a legal mechanism and shifts the responsibility back to the owner, and if the owner fails to pay for the cost of care, the animal is relinquished as a matter of law and can move into adoption. When used effectively, this law is one of the most important tools we have to prevent animals from languishing in shelters to ensure timely, humanely outcomes. It's not just a legal tool, it's an animal welfare tool, it's a resource management tool, and ultimately a justice tool. When animal control and law enforcement respond to a situation, it is vital that they understand that seizing an animal may not be the ideal situation. We don't want to leave animals in a bad situation, but the alternative can be worse. These decisions take training and coordinated communication. And if the decision is made to seize an animal, we should be looking at our state law, not necessarily our ordinances, so we have access to the cost of care. Or we should be implementing and using an ordinance violation that allows pretrial disposition of animals before the criminal case is heard. It is also vital that enforcement agencies ask for owner surrenders when animals are being seized if the owner chooses to relinquish their animal. That is their right. In my personal experience, about 95% of animal owners, when asked if they would rather relinquish their animal or pay the cost of care, choose to relinquish their rights to the animal, which is, again, their legal option. And once ownership rights are relinquished, evidence is gathered, the animal is available for adoption into a new home and does not sit at the county shelter for weeks, months, or even years on end. Early collaboration with prosecutors is also important. Clear photographs, detailed reports, veterinary assessments, thorough scene documentation can make the difference between a bad case, a good case, and a great case. When prosecutors are involved early, they can help identify what evidence is necessary and work with enforcement agencies to be sure they have the evidence they need to move forward. It allows for more informed decisions about the necessity and duration of court holds. The county attorney's office also plays a vital role in the timely filing of cost of care petitions. Once addressed in court, the animal owner does not provide the financial support, it opens that door for them to move into a better place. If cost of care hearings are delayed, the animals remain in limbo much longer than necessary. If they are pursued strategically and early, they can significantly reduce the time animals spend in that shelter. And I want to remind everyone that this is not the responsibility of one office. It does require coordination. It requires awareness. It requires shared commitment to using every available tool, including training, effectively. This is what real teamwork looks like. It's proactive, it's intentional, and it's built on trust. Trust that each agency understands its role, trust that communication will be open and timely, and trust that when challenges arise, the shared goal remains the same. Because it does. We all want a system that works. We want cases that are strong, efficient, and effective, but we all want animals to be protected, not just in the moment that we are seizing them or rescuing them, but in the outcomes of those situations. We want a community that is safer because of the work we do. I want to talk about something that's often left unsaid, and that is this work is hard. It is emotionally demanding. It requires some of us to see things that other people never will. It requires you to make decisions that are not always clear, not always easy, and not always understood by others. But we also have to respect each other when we are tasked to make those decisions. Because every time you intervene in an animal cruelty case, you are doing more than enforcing the law. You are stepping into a situation that may have gone unchecked, identifying risks that may not be visible to others. You are creating an opportunity for accountability, intervention, and change. Because animal crimes are never just about the animal. And when you do that as a part of a coordinated collaborative effort, the impact is even greater because you are not just addressing one case, you're strengthening a system. So I want to leave you with a call to action. Let's commit to strengthening our partnerships. Let's commit to early and consistent communication across agencies. Let's commit to building stronger cases from the very beginning together. Let's commit to being sure animal services, law enforcement, and prosecutors are trained on animal crime investigations and how to effectively navigate the resources available, including myself as the Animal Crimes Resource Prosecutor for the state. I make a commitment to you, and I've even thankfully already spoke to the people in the room in charge of that, to make myself available for these trainings. I am a resource, I am free, and I am grateful to come back to the place where my journey began with all of this and continue to help you guys move forward on this path. Let's commit to using tools like cost of care hearings strategically and timely. And most importantly, let's commit to reducing the number of animals sitting in shelters on court holds. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because behind every one of those animals is a life waiting for resolution. Because every case is an opportunity to intervene. And behind every effort in this room is the ability to make a meaningful difference. I am incredibly proud to have started my career here in DeKalb County, and many of you in this room have helped me along the way in so many ways, so thank you. I am even more proud to stand here today to see the dedication, professionalism, and commitment that each of you in this room brings to this work. The challenges we face are real, but so is our ability to meet them together. Thank you for what you do, thank you for your service, and thank you for being a part of a team that truly makes a difference.
All right, very good. Jessica, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. You were wonderful, and thank you again for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us. Before I go into the next segment of our program today, which is an award presentation that is new to SoDA this year, did want to acknowledge a few people that were in the room earlier, and as I was doing the recognitions, I'm not sure that y'all were quite here yet. So first is one of our fabulous delegation members, Long Tran, Representative Long Tran. Raise your hand. There he is in the back. Thank you, sir, for representing the delegation today. We know you guys are working hard towards the end tomorrow. Also, would like to recognize Brookhaven City Council member Madeline Simmons, who's also back there. I believe the Brookhaven Park is in Madeline's district, right? Yes. So for anyone who wants to go to the best dog park in the whole United States of America, and I say that because it is, go to Brookhaven Park. It's about a 3-minute drive from here. It is awesome. I absolutely love it. Also, our awesome Sheriff, Maddox, Sheriff Melody Maddox, she's in the back there. Thank you, Sheriff. She was a part of our very first panel. She said, oh, what do I do? And I said, I don't know. It's our first panel, so let's learn together. So thank you for continuing to engage and be present. And we also have our Madam Solicitor, Donna Coleman Stribling, who was in the back. Oh, there she is. She found a seat. Okay. Thank you for being with us today. We appreciate that. All righty. So I am so excited about the new segment of the program. Again, the awards. We have 3 awards that we're going to present today. And today we honor not just their service, which they do day in, day out, but also the impact they have on our community. And they have dedication, heart, grit, and just pure love for this animal well-being space. And so really and truly, my hat off, or I guess my purse down, or bag, whatever. I don't know what women say these days, down to you guys. All right, so let's have a little bit of fun. Our first recipient of the Champion of Animals Award is, drum roll, Sonali Sandaine. Please come to the stage, and I'm going to tell him why you're just so awesome. For more than 4 years, Sonali has stood in the gap for court-held dogs, animals too often overlooked and without a voice. As chair of the DeKalb County Animal Services Advisory Board, that's always a mouthful, she combines data, policy insight, and hands-on experience to drive meaningful change. She has done the hard work, showing up case after case after case, advocating for more humane, transparent outcomes for animals caught in legal limbo. Because of her efforts, lives have been changed, both for the animals she fights for and the system that serves them. It is my honor to present Sonali with our Champion of Animals Award. Hold it up. Hold on, let me get my glasses off. Thank you. Would you mind just standing with me right here? We'll get a picture of everyone at the end. All right. We love you, Sonali. Okay, our next awardee is for the DeKalb County Animal Caregiver Unsung Hero Award. Drum roll again, please. That's so much fun. Mr. Scott McLean, come on up. Did we surprise you? Scott represents something we value deeply in DeKalb, showing up, rolling up his sleeves, getting dirty, and doing the work, even when no one is watching. Since 2022, he has volunteered at our shelter, stepping in whenever it's needed, fixing what's broken, helping animals in critical moments, and working to get dogs into homes when time is running out. Alongside his wife, Ann, he also has opened his home to foster dogs through LifeLine. And he doesn't stop there. He shows up at our very boring Board of Commissioners business meetings for public comment and waits and waits and waits to just get up for 3 minutes and say how much he is holding us accountable and what we're doing right and what we could improve on. And honestly, that helps us do our work better. So without further ado, congratulations, Mr. McLean. Wait, hold on, I gotta get a picture. This whole picture thing. With your award.
I'm not used to this.
Thank you. I couldn't think, oh, one more round of applause. And I certainly couldn't think of anyone better than him, just even how he came up to the stage. All righty, finally, we recognize our third recipient, which is our SoDA Partnership Award. Drum roll again. That is Miss Peggy McCarthey. So please come forward. As many of you know, Peggy has been a powerful and effective advocate for advancing animal policy, absolutely at the state level, but also in local jurisdictions like ours. She shapes state legislation and supports local governments in building systems and policies that are both compassionate and effective. Her work has had a long-lasting impact across Georgia and right here in DeKalb. Peggy is someone I deeply, truly respect, and I value your friendship, your insights, your wisdom, your sharing your expertise, and so many other things about you. And I couldn't be more proud than to offer you this award. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Our picture. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, if our award recipients, y'all come back on the stage for a quick photo. All right. Ashley, is this good right here? All right. Put the shorties in front. Yeah, definitely the shortest. All right, thank you guys. Let's give them another round of applause.
Commissioner, we have one more award. Hang on. Is Cindy with us? Cindy?
Oh my goodness. Oh, y'all are. Oh.
I'm going to take this stage for 1 second here. Hi, my name is Cindy Iacopella, and I am the Georgia State Director for Humane World for Animals, formerly the Humane Society of the United States. And you thought there were only 3 awards today. But we wanted to recognize a leader who has been purposeful, impactful, and has driven change not only here in DeKalb County, but throughout the state of Georgia. Her forward thinking in animal well-being and setting policy and being a champion for animal welfare and being an example has set the standard for many other counties. Like I said, 159 counties in this state, and DeKalb County is absolutely leading the way. We work with a lot of different organizations across the state to try to drive change, and there is one commissioner who has been an example for many in this state, and we wanted to recognize her hard work and how much she does and how many lives she has saved by implementing these policies and being a champion, a true, compassionate, caring leader who doesn't care about titles. She does not care about where she stands politically in a world full of politics. What she is doing is putting her money where her mouth is, and she is standing up for the voiceless, and she is doing the work that the rest of the country is watching. And I want to thank all of you, the advocates who have helped be the voices for the animals, LifeLine, Peggy, my partner, Jessica, who is just unbelievable. But mostly we really want to thank the DeKalb County, the entire Board of Commissioners, all of the law enforcement, and everybody. But on behalf of Humane World for Animals, we would like to present Commissioner Michelle Long-Spears, the Humane Leadership and Excellence Award, and honoring her steadfast commitment to safeguarding animals and championing protective policies throughout DeKalb County and Georgia. I'll bring it over there.
Y'all heard enough from me, as Ms. Seidel just stated. Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you so much, Humane World for Animals. I was not expecting that. I'm trying not to cry, so let me get focused on my duty up here so I don't cry. All righty, again, thanks to all of our awards recipients. We're very proud that we're able to bring that to the SoDA event this year. Next up is Dr. Peggy McCarthey, and we'll hear a state legislation update and how she is shaping animal welfare in the state of Georgia. Without further ado, let's give her a warm welcome.
Very much an honor to be here today and to receive that award. Thank you, because as you all know, it takes a village to do everything we do in animal welfare. And to begin today, I'd like to thank Commissioner Long-Spears and the SoDA group for inviting me to provide a quick summary of state and local legislation for 2026, as well as the exciting spay-neuter initiatives that have been happening in DeKalb County. A printed copy of the complete legislative summary is available at the Georgia Pet Coalition table in the foyer, or can be downloaded from our website. So this is my favorite photo. This is a dog from the Boxer Rescue of Atlanta. 9 beneficial animal-related bills were considered in 2026 by the Georgia legislature. As of last night, 5 of these bills, not 3, have overwhelmingly passed in both the House and Senate, indicating a high degree of bipartisan support. This is so encouraging, as animal protection is neither right nor left, but forward. It is also indicative that advocates are continuing to build a bench of lawmakers willing to sponsor and co-sponsor animal-related bills. The first animal bill to pass this session was HB 1408, which is an access to care bill. It authorizes licensed vet techs to administer the rabies vaccine under direct supervision of a licensed veterinarian. Direct supervision means that the attending veterinarian is on site where the vaccine is being administered. HB 1195 is another access to care bill for rural areas and amends the veterinary telemedicine bill that passed last year. It clarifies that a vet-client-patient relationship, or VCPR, is not required for veterinarians to provide tele-advice or tele-triage. The VCPR is a legally mandated relationship that is established through an in-person examination of an animal by a vet. This bill also clarifies the geographic requirements around access to tele-triage services. An unintended consequence of the original law from last year was a shutdown of poison control services provided by 2 organizations. The passage of 1195 restores those services. HB 668 provides a much-needed update to Georgia law surrounding service animals. It redefines service dogs to include assistance and guide dogs and provides penalties for persons who cause death or harm to service dogs or misrepresent the need for a service dog. I don't have a slide for this next bill because it passed last night. And this is HB 587 that provides for the establishment of an animal cruelty database subject to appropriations next year that will be created and administered by the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, which Jessica Rock is a part of. The purpose of this free and publicly searchable database will be to assist animal shelters and animal control agencies in screening prospective adopters and preventing animals from being placed in dangerous situations. Those convicted of Title 16 offenses will be included in the database. And this bill will likely go under further amendments in 2027 to strengthen its impact. Bill language matters. Tomorrow is the last day of the legislative session, so it is unlikely that any of the remaining bills will pass. However, 2027 begins a new 2-year legislative cycle, and these bills can be strengthened and reintroduced. Two of those bills received broad co-sponsorship from lawmakers but did not pass, and these are the ban on cockfighting and improving standards of care in puppy mills. So let's look forward to 2027 for getting those bills through. On the local level, first, last year the Georgia Pet Coalition successfully spearheaded a state law that prohibits the sales of dogs, cats, and pet rabbits in public areas such as parking lots. DeKalb County had already passed a similar ordinance in 2024 for its unincorporated areas. Because a state law can only be enforced by police, sheriff, or other post-certified officers, we've encouraged cities and counties to pass an ordinance in accordance with the state law mandate so that animal control, code enforcement, and law enforcement officers are all authorized to issue citations for this violation. This is the important part. More city ordinances have been passed in DeKalb than in any other Georgia county. And you can see those. Tucker was introduced about a week ago, and we would like all DeKalb cities to pass this ordinance. I'd also like to give a special shout out to the Dunwoody and Doraville City Councils for also passing a ban on the sales of dogs and cats in pet stores. And notably, Doraville became the first jurisdiction in Georgia to also prohibit the sales of pet rabbits in pet stores. Moving on to spay-neuter initiatives funded by SoDA and DeKalb County, the long-term goal here is to expand spay-neuter capacity to match the county demand, which is large. Expanding capacity helps to ensure that all shelter animals are sterilized prior to adoption or foster, with the exception for medical reasons. Whoops, I'm sorry. Oh, not there yet. Expanding capacity also ensures that free or low-cost appointments are available for owned pets, ideally within 2 weeks of scheduling, not something like 3 or 4 months. And it also provides the needed outreach to zip codes with the highest concentration of animal service calls and shelter intakes. So here's the rationale. Spay-neuter is the single best preventive measure to reduce shelter intake and euthanasia. And I'm preaching to the choir here, I know. Spay-neuter is an essential component of public health and basic veterinary care. And vaccines administered during spay-neuter surgery provide a crucial layer of protection for both pets and people. The result is no babies, along with no rabies. To significantly expand spay-neuter capacity in DeKalb, training veterinarians to perform high-quality, high-volume spay-neuter surgery was needed, and Commissioner Long Spears provided the funds to conduct these trainings, which are part of a national pilot program offered through United Spay Alliance. The trainings are referred to as wet labs. To date, 4 trainings have been held at the LifeLine Community Animal Center, 2 for feline procedures and 2 for canine. 16 veterinarians have participated and received continuing education credits. And it's important to note that one well-trained, full-time HQ/HV vet can sterilize up to about 5,000 animals per year. And during this training, 105 shelter dogs and cats were sterilized. In addition, the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners approved funding for a free spay-a-thon series in 2025. The spay-a-thon was held at 2 sites, LifeLine Community Animal Center and Paws Atlanta. Free spay-neuter was offered for owned dogs and cats. Priority registration was given to under-resourced zip codes, and approximately 350 dogs and cats were sterilized during the series. In closing, special thanks, of course, are due to Commissioner Long-Spears and SoDA for funding the surgical trainings for veterinarians, and to the DeKalb County Board of Commissioners for funding the Spay-a-thon series. Thank you for allowing me to provide this summary today.
Let's give Dr. McCarthey another round of applause. Before we transition into our panel, I would like to recognize a few other folks that have joined us. One is Brookhaven City Councilman Michael Diaz. You still here, sir? He was standing in the back earlier. Well, let's give him a round of applause. Madeline, you can tell him. Second, as I understand, D.A. Boston. Sherry Boston has arrived. D.A. Boston, there she is. Thank you for joining us today and everything you do. All right, as promised, we are now transitioning to our panel discussion. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Andrea Seidel, who is eager to get up here. She's a longtime animal advocate, a dedicated volunteer, and someone I am proud to say I call a friend. So without further ado, let's invite Andrea and all of our panelists. Andrea will introduce the panelists, and then we'll do Q&A following the panel discussion. Again, Andrea, you're up. Here you are. You can take it down a little bit for you.
I do need to take this mic down a little bit more for me. And I think Commissioner Spears said that we were going to do some Q&A after, but in the interest of time, what I'll ask is that if you have questions after hearing our panelists, please put those questions on the cards that should be on your table, and those will be collected and we'll respond to you. So good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. For many people, animal welfare starts with a single moment, a call, a concern, an animal in need. But what happens after that moment involves an entire system that most people never see. And that's what today is about. We're going to pull back the curtain on how that system works in DeKalb County by hearing directly from the people responsible for making it work. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, and I hope you are also. So to start us off, panel, what I'd love is for you to ground everyone in how your roles connect to this work, and I guess we'll just start right here with you, Prosecutor Rock.
For me, obviously, many years ago, I was a trial line prosecutor, and I guess I can speak from that perspective because that's probably most relevant to what you all are trying to accomplish here. Trial line prosecutors have tons and tons and tons of cases, way more than there is hours in the day. So oftentimes when they do get an animal crime case, it's not something that they're necessarily familiar with. So I would just say that a big part of making sure that the prosecutors and the law enforcement officers are working together to be sure that cases are documented and investigated appropriately so that when the prosecutor gets that case, they have the evidence they need to prosecute it.
I'm director, was this one?
I think so, or you can use mine.
Use yours. All right, I can't tell. Okay, I'm Director Natasha Wallen over the Animal Enforcement Services. I worked for DeKalb PD for a while and then kind of moseyed on over to the Animal Enforcement Services office because they needed some administrative help. But I have my awesome team. They're sitting in the back office, right, and field. I definitely couldn't do it without them. They encounter, whether it's on the phone or out in the field, they really get the brunt of the calls coming in, the issues, and they go out in the field and try to resolve, whether happy or sad. We're kind of caught between PD and fire. Everyone's happy to see fire, kind of grumbly when they see PD, so we get a little of both, so yeah.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Darnell Fullum, and I am the Public Safety Director. Been serving in the position since January, so I'm the baby on the panel. But previously, I was the fire chief for 12 years here in DeKalb County, have 39 years in the fire service. So this is new for me, along with the other agencies that come under the Office of Public Safety. But in general, my position for all the departments are to, in essence, be what I consider as a facilitator and a fixer. So as I've gone out and had an opportunity to visit not only the animal shelter, to do ride-alongs actually with some of the enforcement officers, I'm here to learn. I've learned a lot even today, and really hearing some things that I think we're going to take home with us and do differently. So thank you.
It's really heavy. My name is Rebecca Guinn. I'm the CEO and founder of LifeLine Animal Project. LifeLine is behind a lot of what you're seeing today. LifeLine has a contract with DeKalb County to manage the DeKalb County Animal Shelter, but our work really, that's kind of the floor for our work and not really the ceiling. LifeLine has built an entire infrastructure to really support not only sheltering, but also prevention, so both sides of the equation. Our animal shelter in DeKalb County takes in every animal, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of condition, regardless of behavior. And LifeLine's mission is to do everything we can possible to see that that animal leaves our care alive. And that mission has motivated LifeLine to do all the other things that we do as well, to really create a prevention network. We're the largest provider of spay-neuter services in Georgia, and provide access to care, and really try to look at those earlier interventions to change sheltering to truly a life-saving endeavor. So we work with all these people. Started out a long time ago even working with Jessica in DeKalb, and really at that time in DeKalb was a model for the way cases could be prosecuted and handled. And I'm really enthusiastic to have her back, at least advising and hoping that we can move forward that way. So I'm grateful for all of our partners. It's really a public-private partnership, and we couldn't do it without DeKalb County or without all of you and all of our volunteers. So, and shout out to our LifeLine staff. Y'all just raise your hands and wave. Yeah, thank you.
So to get started, I'll invite any of you to interject at any time on a question. I've got some questions, and I'll probably suggest who we start with or direct it to you specifically. So starting with Director Wallen, when an animal cruelty neglect case comes in, what does coordination actually look like from the first call to potential prosecution?
The call comes in, of course it's dispatched, whether they call it in or go on the website to let us know that there's an issue out there. Front office sometimes handles the concern, or the field has to go out and assess the situation. Once they assess, whether it's citing someone, giving them a notice to comply, meaning we need to meet some type of standard to come into compliance, if we have to impound the animal, of course we take the animal and we send it over to the shelter. In terms of being out in the field and coordinating, sometimes fire, PD, the marshal's units, whether it's an eviction, a health scare, whatever it is, we go out and we coordinate with all of these units. Code enforcement, the Department of Health, we report bites, rabies, etc. So we really do work with a whole lot of our community to come together before it even gets to the shelter or to the courts.
Okay, thank you very much. This one is for anyone who wants to interject because you are all part of this. How do you define the boundaries between enforcement, sheltering, and prosecution, and where do those lines blur? I'll call one of you out.
That's, let me see. Well, of course, enforcement. We're enforcing ordinances, state law. PD often comes out to help us with those. When it comes to the shelter, of course, Rebecca can speak on that, but they help the community as well as enforcement. So sometimes the lines do blur because someone walks in the door with an animal, not involving animal enforcement, and sometimes we do have to get involved. Hey, we got this little guy here, it needs help, it needs a case, you know, we'll come out and investigate. Other times we don't know, you know, what's going on. So that could get a little blurry when later we find out something happened, or, you know, they're trying to help citizens rather than, you know, just kind of slamming them against the wall every time they come in. So some would look at that as blurring the lines, but we work together great to kind of straighten the lines out so they're not as blurry.
Yeah, I think that I would probably just comment that it's probably much more about working together than it is about boundaries. Everybody certainly has their role when it comes to seizing animals in criminal cases involving the enforcement agencies that's making that decision. And then obviously it being in the shelter, and then even beyond that, the county attorney filing the cost of care petitions like we talked about earlier. But I think it's much more about coordinated communication and collaboration than it is about boundaries.
Good. And CEO Guinn, I'd like to ask you specifically, because I know as a volunteer that you get pressure to take action at the shelter that might not actually be the shelter's charge, but more an enforcement charge. And perhaps you can talk about how you make decisions as to what you can do to help an animal who is in need.
That's a really good question. I think that, you know, first and foremost, we're all public safety, right? So those considerations always have to come first. When it comes to someone presenting an animal, whether they need help or they're trying to surrender their animal or they've found an animal, I mean, we're going to see signs there that some activity may be happening. A lot of the time, situations where you might suspect neglect is really a lack of resources. And we want the shelter to be a place where people can come for help, and being able to provide those resources, whether it's veterinary care, we have the pet food bank, the spay-neuter options. Animals come into the shelter because of human problems. And at the shelter, we're not always equipped to deal with human problems. Sometimes those problems are way beyond our skill set, and we need to get enforcement involved, or we need to get the police involved, or all the above. It is about communication, but many cases, people just need help. Animals just need help. And that's what the shelter is really there for, the animals who truly, and people who truly need the help.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, I'll just add, you know, as I was thinking about what you were saying, and I'm going to relate it to my experience, but I would think that we want the shelter to be a place where somebody who has self-identified that it's time to give up their pet, that they can come there and not feel as though they're then in turn going to be prosecuted. We do this at our fire stations where somebody could drop off a baby, and when they drop that baby off, there's no questions asked, because the alternative would be much worse. So I would think that we would want the shelter to be a place that somebody feels as though they could drop off an animal because they have maybe self-identified that they cannot care for that animal.
Okay, good. For Prosecutor Rock, from a prosecution standpoint, what makes an animal cruelty case strong or difficult to pursue? And what do enforcement teams need to document better to help cases succeed in court?
So most of what I do nowadays, rather than being in the courtroom, is doing trainings. So this is one of those questions that I I absolutely love, right? Because when I am training law enforcement and prosecutors on how to investigate and prosecute these cases, we talk about the importance of evidence collection. Everybody in this room knows that when we started getting television shows that involved court type cases that weren't really reality, it kind of changed the way that we had to address this in reality, right? So all of these crime drama TV shows, a lot of times have juries thinking that the evidence is going to be just, tons and tons and tons of evidence. And so it caused us a little bit of an uphill battle, right? And having to collect evidence and document it so that we could basically put jurors essentially at the crime scene. So body-worn cameras have been very helpful with that, just taking a lot of good photographs, videos, knowing what you're looking at, having a veterinarian. Our forensic veterinarians are some of the most important witnesses in these cases because they can help identify what exactly is happening to the animal or going on with the animal, and that helps us articulate our criminal charges. So a lot of that is very helpful too when you have prosecutors and law enforcement and animal services working together to be sure that that evidence is collected appropriately the first time, because we only have one shot.
Okay, anybody else? All right, back to Director Wallen, picking on you today. What are the biggest challenges that your team faces when enforcing animal ordinances in the county? And feel free to address whether it's resources, laws, public understanding, or all of the above.
Okay. Biggest challenge is navigating public perception and understanding. One of our kind of minor but yet very popular is at large versus tethering. When we see someone, they have their dog running wild in a neighborhood, we go get it, we say, hey, you can't just let your animal run free. So they say, okay, no problem, I got it. Well, then we get a call the week after saying, okay, now the dog's tied in the back to a tree. And we go back and say, okay, you can't tie the dog. And they're like, well, you were here last week and said I couldn't let it free. Now I have it tied and I'm getting in trouble again. So, knowing the nuances that you have to be there and in control of the animal and you can't let it run free because of, and the different cities have different ordinances. They might have the at-large or in control of, but some you have to be able to touch your dog, while others you just have to be able to call it and it comes to you. So being able to, I kind of went through, the nerdy side of me, went through all the ordinances in DeKalb County with all the incorporated versus unincorporated. There are 13,000 different ordinances. So, yeah, and they might have the same title, but they'll have something different in all of them. So that gets kind of tricky when a neighbor said, I called and animal enforcement isn't doing anything. And it's like, we try. But, we go out, we do what we can, but we have to also keep people's rights, in the front, So sometimes they don't understand. Sometimes there's sick family members at home. We had someone that came into town, take care of the mom, didn't even know there was a dog in the garage. So someone came by and was like, what happened with the dog? And he's like, what dog? And of course it wasn't in good shape. Well, come into a compliance, they had to use our resources. Hey, can you help us out? That type of thing. Yes, we're gonna help you. No, you're not going to jail. You don't even live here. So we have cases like that happen, but on the outside, people are like, they didn't do anything, they don't care. We do, but we care about people and animals, the welfare of all of it, so.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out, because I told you I did a ride along, and I rode with Sonali and Sierra, which are two of the enforcement officers. And one of the calls that we responded to was a report of a stray dog in a backyard. And we got there, we did find the stray dog, but Officer Sierra also noticed that there was a dog tethered in the backyard. And the dog was tethered to a tree, small tree, but the tree was apparently not enough to keep this dog from possibly running off. So they wrapped the tether around a piece of furniture. And she said, we have to take that dog. She went and knocked on the door so that she could educate the owner. The owner wasn't there. We took that dog, we left a notice. And so I just wanted to say that, I recognize very much that these folks care, right? That it would have been easy for her to have just dealt with what she saw as what we were called there for. But in that case, she did take the dog. The dog was taken to the shelter, and they were notified that they could go and get their dog and then receive the proper education. So a lot of work is done out there each and every day by these folks. I just want to give them a hand clap again for what they do, because I really did see the care.
Thank you. CEO Guinn, once animals are brought into the system, what are the biggest pressures facing the shelter today? And can you share an example of a case or an initiative where coordination between your teams worked particularly well?
Sure. I think the largest pressure clearly is the capacity issue. The shelter was designed to hold a certain number of animals, and when we really started with the pandemic, we started to really fill with the court holds, and the judicial process was stopped. It just stopped during the pandemic, and a lot of things changed. And really, we got to a point, and we're still kind of close there right now, but we got to a point where half of the shelter's designed capacity was taken up by court hold animals. And at the same time, the community is starting to experience a lot of pressures that are causing more and more animals to come into the shelter. So our intake last year was the highest it had ever been since I started keeping track of the numbers, which was in 2002. We're really facing an incredible demand. The court hold situation also really takes up resources. If it weren't for the volunteers and the foster program, I don't think we'd be able to make it through, because the court hold animals take up so much of our veterinary care resources, our staff resources, our housing resources, that we're really relying on volunteers to help fill that gap, and then our foster program, particularly our foster program. 55%, I think, right now of the animals in our care at the DeKalb County Animal Shelter are actually in foster homes. And fosters also play a really big role in live evidence fosters to try and alleviate some of the pressure for court holds. But it's a difficult thing to ask someone to do, because you don't know how long they're going to have the animal. You don't know what the fate is of that animal. You don't know whether or not the owner may get the animal back at the end of the process. And so we're asking our court hold fosters to really carry a big emotional burden to participate. I think a case, really start to finish, it requires a lot of coordination between enforcement and our intake department. We want to know how many animals are coming in, what kind of condition they're going to be in. We're going to have to make room at the shelter because of the capacity issues. We're going to have different team members involved. There may be a cruelty exam involved, pulling in our veterinary team. And I'm thinking of one case where we had, we knew, I think it was a fairly large seizure, but one of the dogs coming in was very pregnant, and more than likely about to go into labor. So we were able to prepare for that. And when the dog came in, our clinic team said, "Yep, labor's imminent." The DeKalb Shelter doesn't have a maternity ward or a maternity ward, or anyway. We don't have that. We have offices. So Mama Dog was moved into an office and gave birth, and so that was involving our vet team. And then she developed mastitis, and so our foster team had been trying to find foster for mom and pups, but then we had to find bottle feeders, and so they really had to pivot. So the whole organization had to work very quickly to make sure that all these animals were safe. I think at the end of the day, LifeLine becomes responsible for these animals once they come into our care, and the prolonged court hold issue means that for our work, there's no margin for error. We really, every mistake can really have a tremendous impact. And so it's a lot of pressure for our teams. It's a lot of pressure for our volunteers who are seeing these animals day in and day out, and a lot of pressure just on the system in general. So.
Okay, thank you. We've talked some about the public and interfacing with the public. Director Fullum, what role does the public play in helping animal enforcement efforts succeed?
Yeah, I think Sarah hit it on the head with her keynote, and great job. Once again, I learned a lot. But it really is a team effort, and we often hear the saying, see something, say something. I think in many cases when I was doing my ride-alongs, that's what we were responding to. We were responding to incidents where somebody had reported, possibly a neighbor, and was concerned. And I think that's where it starts. So that grassroots effort of identifying those problems when you see them. And I, once again, love what Jessica said about the fact that even as a firefighter, you recognize when you enter in somebody's home, often there for a medical situation, but you see the conditions. And there has been times, I've been in homes where you see the neglect, not only of the home itself, but of the pets. And so the training that needs to happen with our first responders, that they become those eyes and that they're reporting it, is the same thing we would want from the public. I think that's happening because, once again, most of the calls we were responding to that day were calls where somebody had seen something that they were then reporting.
And so, Director Wallen, what should people report, and what should they understand before they call?
Definitely report anything that, someone's life is in danger, whether it's another animal or a person. Call us. Let us determine whether we should have been called or not. If you're not sure, give us a call. We definitely don't want anyone out there scared or, worrying about being attacked by something, and I don't know if I should, just call us. We'll let you know. Wildlife, a lot of that, we're getting a lot of calls. Animal enforcement handles within the house. Sometimes bats get in, squirrels, snakes. We're definitely going to make sure that within your home you're safe. But if there are pests in the attic, in the backyard, we're not coming out to set a trap for a raccoon in the backyard. They live there. So, but I understand it's kind of scary because they do carry rabies, and rabies is fatal, and people get, So call the front office. They love chatting with people, and they'll let you know. So if you're not sure, give us a call. The website, LifeLine, has a link that you can put a concern in, and someone will reach back out to you, whether it's email, phone call. Anonymous calls come in. We don't know who you are, so if we don't know, we can't answer. We're sorry. Mind reading, not on the book. So, but yeah, so if you're not sure, call us. There's a million different situations. It's kind of hard to just put that black and white. A lot of what we do is gray area, so we're here to help, educate, help people come into compliance. Give us a call. We'll let you know.
And I just read that wild pigs are now in that gray area. I saw that report. Oh
yeah, definitely. When I talked to the USDA, they said that the feral pigs really are more scared of us than we are of them. And people think, oh, well, no, they got little piglets with them. They're going to attack. And they've seen the moms actually leave their babies behind. Like, good luck, fend for yourself. So, yeah. So definitely don't go towards them. They're not trying to be your buddy. But yeah, they're out there, and there's licensing permits to transport them. Even we have darting. We go out and, sometimes the stray animals that have been out in a certain area, Our darts don't work on them. There's, I think, 2 chemicals that do sodium something that he mentioned, but we're not even licensed in Georgia to administer that. So it gets kind of tough to catch them, and they're smart in the way that if they see one get trapped in a certain way, the rest of them are like, yeah, we're out of here, and they don't, you can set up 10 traps, and they're like, no, we know what that is. So it gets tough to collect 25 of them in an area, so.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'll just do one more question, and this is for everyone. If you could change one thing, whether it's policy, resources, or coordination, what would have the biggest impact on animal welfare in DeKalb County?
Well, I will say that in my 22 years of doing this and spending a lot of time with communities around the entire state, I will say I do find it much more effective when you have people in positions in investigations and prosecutions that become specialized in how to investigate and prosecute these cases. That's not always possible with the manpower that we have and the limited resources we sometimes have, but to at least have somebody tasked in all of the offices, and that obviously animal services, they always are, but DKPD, to have each one of the different, what am I trying to say? Not regions, but precincts. Each one of the precincts having somebody identified as being somebody who can be the go-to person who specializes in making sure evidence is collected the right way. In the prosecutor's offices, which they do have here in DeKalb County, people who understand these crimes and at least know who to reach out to when they need assistance. But I think that sort of collaborative working together to be sure the cases are investigated and prosecuted effectively makes a huge difference.
Okay. Director Wallen?
Definitely, DeKalb offers great resources. DeKalb offers a lot of great resources, but a lot of times, I'm going to use yours. Okay, is this thing out? There we go. Hers is the only one working. Got it. No, but we offer a lot of resources, but a lot of our issues or problems are on the east and south side of the county. Well, many of those people don't have vehicles, and they're hopping on MARTA. Well, they can't usually bring their dog onto MARTA to go up to get shots, wherever, the community events are. A lot of times they can't get to them. So I don't know what kind of magic wand. Somebody out here has one. I know, I've seen things happen. But kind of getting those resources to them. The shelter does a great job offering free food once a month on Fridays. But again, if they don't have a vehicle and can't get to the north side of town, those resources are for naught. So I'd like to see somehow getting those resources to the people that kind of need them. They're offered up here, but we need them down here. So that would be super helpful.
So, works for you. What's that? Yeah, this is a new one. I'm excited, actually. It was mentioned during the presentations, and Commissioner Long Spears mentioned it about the investment DeKalb County is making, the $22 million investment that was approved at the beginning of this year for the LifeLine contract that included the upstream prevention efforts. And so it's a good time for me to come on, right, when some of these things are being addressed. But actually, Rebecca and I were out a week or so ago looking at a location on the south side where we will be able to offer some of those services. And so that was part of that enhancement that was done in the budget. So once again, it's a very exciting time where there will be food that will be offered, other items that are needed in order to keep those pets in the home for those that are doing it and willing to do it the right way, but may just be lacking resources. So once again, excited about what's going to happen over the next 2 years with the investments that have been made.
Thank you. We're excited too, aren't we? These are the investments here at the table. No, we do have DeKalb County will enable us to double our mobile clinic visits to these areas. And as Dr. Fullum said, we're looking at locations that the county owns on the south side that are more centrally located. We've also have funded a transport vehicle to be able to pick up pets and bring them. We're not going to do a taxi for people yet, but to bring pets into, whether it's our community animal center for spay-neuter or vaccines, or we've even added funding for sick and injured animals, so full service veterinary care as well. I think I'm sorry I said yet about the people, because I know now they're thinking she's going to want a taxi service that's going to bring pets and people in, but that's not on the agenda. But there is something about pets and people that I think we really need to look at. They're called companion animals, right? So animal well-being is inextricably tied to human well-being. And we need animals to be at all the conversations, not just this conversation, but every social service conversation, healthcare conversations, law enforcement conversations, housing insecurity, food insecurity, all of those issues that touch humans and cause humans to struggle, cause animals to struggle, and that's why they come into our system. So the shelter alone can't be just the only safety net when we're really dealing with everything that, every time people need help, there's probably an animal that needs help as well. And those are the partnerships that we really need to identify and need all of your help in creating, especially our elected officials, because I think they know what's going on with their constituents. And it's that insight that we really need to be able to provide for those animal pet family members. So.
Okay, so if this were a Board of Commissioners meeting, we'd be hearing that little, your time is up. And so I'll just say thank you to each of you, and thank you for the role that you play and the impact you're making every day on animal welfare in DeKalb County and the state.
Wow, that was an awesome panel. One more round of applause. Thank you so much. And to our LifeLine Executive Director, Rebecca, you are really an inspiration to me. I know how hard you and your team works day in, day out. So thank you for everything that you do, all of the challenges that you have to manage, some of the comments negative that come across. I just want to say thank you. And so to the LifeLine folks, we appreciate you very much. All righty, we are running a few minutes behind, so I'm going to fly through the remainder of today's program before we transition into the roundtables. The conversations we have started here today, some are new, some are ongoing that we started to talk about during our very first SoDA event. And I just want to strongly encourage everyone who was present, please get involved. We need you. Every single person can bring something to the table, even if it's a 30-minute walk of a dog at the animal shelter. Or I dropped off blankets and towels over one of our ice days. There's little things that can make a really big difference. So let's all here today take action and commit to doing more and doing better on behalf of our furry friends. I also encourage you to show up on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. in our long, boring business meetings, but at least public comment is in the beginning. You do get 3 minutes, and your voice matters. The red shirts, when they show up, I'm sure you guys have seen me from the day of snap photos. It just reminds me. I can go back and put red shirt into my iPhone and research it, and I have hundreds of photos. And so thank you guys for just showing up, showing out, and using your voice.
And so with that, I do have a couple of updates before we close out, but I did want to read a quote that just came across my text messaging this morning from my friend Lawrence Sharp. Lawrence sends me a motivational message every single day. And the one I received today really resonated in reflection of how I feel right now. It says, "You go differently when you have good people with good intentions in your life." And that is how I feel about all of you. So thank you very much.